Bree, I can't wait to hear and unpack your story because I know it's been beautiful in so many ways. And I know those listening also want to hear the ups and downs of this journey. So before we jump in too much, would you mind just sharing a little bit about yourself and maybe how things were before you found this program?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I live in Canada. I've lived in Canada most of my life. I actually grew up in missions, so I moved around a lot. But about 2 years ago, I got married to my husband. And so I moved to a different area of Canada, and that's where we've been living since. So, yeah, before the program, I think I realized looking back now that I had vaginismus for a lot longer than I knew that I did. I was never able to put in tampons, and I had a super painful negative experience with a transvaginal ultrasound before. But I was just like, okay, maybe those are just, I don't know, that's just maybe how my body works, or I didn't have language for it. And then my husband and I waited for marriage, and I found out on our wedding night. I was afraid looking up to it, but I found out that sex was not only very painful, it was also impossible. We couldn't do any sort of PIV at all. And at that point, I was okay, I don't know what's going on here. But my husband was very much, I think we should just, I don't think this is right, and I don't want to push it. And so we just took PIV off the table for maybe 3 months. And we just didn't even try, really. And I was fine with it at that point. I didn't feel super distressed about it. I was just, I don't know what's going on, but whatever. And then, yeah, and then I think my sister and I had a conversation at one point, and she was just checking in, seeing how things are going, and if I had any questions about sex or anything. And I told her there had been a lot of pain, and she's okay, that's not normal, or it shouldn't be that way. And she recommended going to pelvic floor therapy. And so I think it was maybe somewhere between 3 and 6 months after we were married that I went to started going to pelvic floor therapy. And it was helpful in some ways. That was when I first got the language for vaginismus and some of the language for what was going on. But it didn't feel like it was going very far. And it was very focused on just the physical aspect of it and dilators. And I was able to progress some through dilators, but I was feeling really stuck with it. And I didn't get super far. And then, yeah, then that's when I heard about your program and decided to do a consultation call.
Wow. I'm sad for you that your wedding night was met with just so much frustration. I feel that too. That was a lot of my story and a lot of our clients, but it's hard when we expect that wedding night to be stars and sunshine and butterflies and this thing we've been waiting for. And we're met with just confusion and questions and pain and frustration. And so sorry that was part of your story. And then even before that, tampons and the transvaginal ultrasound and not having a body that felt supported in that area. And then going into marriage, I imagine there's a lot of just kind of dissonance and questions there. But I'm really glad you opened up to your sister and started like moving in the right direction, getting words for this, getting language, feeling not alone. And yeah, and then finding this program. So how was it doing the consult call?
Yeah. Yeah. So at that point, I think it was like 9 or 10 months after we had gotten married that I heard about the program. And then maybe it was around like 11 months after, like getting close to my 1 year anniversary when I did the call. And at this point, it was really starting to bother me. Like I said earlier, for the first 3 months, I was like, that's fine. I don't really need PIV, whatever. By 11 months in, I was like, I mean, I feel like this is not how I want this to be forever. And so it was starting to become a lot more distressing to me. And so I'd gone back and forth about whether to do a consult call, and I'd heard you on podcasts and I really liked what I heard, but I was just like overwhelmed, and I'm like, I don't even know what to do or if this is what I need. And doing the call, it felt like a lot of things clicked for me, and I was like very excited about the idea. It felt, oh, this makes sense. This feels like this is a really good approach that's like very well-rounded and holistic. So I was very drawn to the approach, but I was also still just like, what do I do? So I think after I ended the call with you, I called my mom actually, and I just started sobbing. And I'm like, there's this like this program and I don't know if I should do it. And it's a little bit of a risk because it's an investment and I never known anyone personally who had done it. And my mom was like, I think you should do it. I think this is something that's worth investing in. And so I signed up within, I think that day yet. So yeah.
Oh, I would love that you reached out to your mom too, and that she was such a sweet support for you. I know not everyone has that. That's really special that you do. And yeah, I love her advice. It's a worthwhile investment. And it's not even like it's time, it's spiritual, it's emotional investment too. It's not just the financial, because this is such an issue that's worth working through. And so I just love that your mom saw that in you and almost even said you're worth it too in you. So beautiful. Okay, so started the program, and yeah, how I guess what were some of the biggest hurdles that you had to overcome in this program?
Yeah. So I feel like I went into the program with a lot of momentum and like the first couple phases I was like super excited and I felt I loved the community hub and all the women there and like listening to other people's celebration calls and I felt just like a lot of hope in that and people were so welcoming to me and that felt like so refreshing because it's yes, I had talked about vaginismus with my mom and sister, but other than that it was like completely isolating. And so it was so fun to be able to jump in to such a beautiful community with so many incredible women. So I feel like I jumped in with a lot of momentum and I was progressing through dilators like pretty fast at the beginning and felt like much faster than it what had been going in just pelvic floor therapy. And then actually at some I think it was like a month later that it was my husband and I's anniversary. And I was trying not to go into that with pressure at all, but it's hard to fully remove that. But we went on a little road trip together and we stayed in a little tree house and we were just very relaxed and it was a good time. And we were able to have partial PIV, I think only a month into the program. And I was like very surprised. Wow, I was not expecting that. And I was really excited. And then we came back from our little road trip and some really stressful things happened right after we got back, just in life in general. And my nervous system really freaked out. And then all of a sudden, I couldn't even put in the smallest dilator anymore. And I felt like I was worse off than I had been before. And so I think that is a consistent thing throughout the program that was maybe one of the biggest hurdles was like when it felt like there was a setback and I know you're really good at reframing that language too, and it's not always a setback if you think it's a setback, but the non-linearness of healing felt like it was a hurdle for me to get over, especially with my perfectionism and I like things to be done and ideally if they could get done in a straightforward checklist sort of way, that would be awesome. And that's not how healing and nervous system works at all. Yeah, I was very discouraged and reached out on one of the calls and just felt so supported and felt like I was very not alone in that. And yeah, just working on kind of reframing even the thoughts I was having towards myself in that and my body, because that was another hurdle was a lot of negative self-talk and a lot of just not a lot of self-compassion going on. And so after that, I was able to start working my way up through the dilators again. And I felt like I was starting to be able to, again, be at another spot. And then there was some really hard stuff that my husband and I went through. And it felt like another thing that was like, wow, my body is really in high stress right now. And my nervous system is in high stress. And I was very able to see that in how my body responded and not in the progression of dilators and again, what felt like a setback. But I feel like just in that, I know something you said to some different people in setbacks was like, I'm glad this is happening in the program because we're helping you learn like how to respond to that when that happens. And I feel like that 100%. And the healing that came through that whole process felt like much deeper. And yeah, even just learning about the nervous system and ways that the healing went much beyond even just PIV. And I think I had fairly regular panic attacks before I started the program, and I haven't had one since December, which I think is about the longest I've gone without one since I started getting them. And so just different stuff like that, like a healing that feels like it's so much deeper than just can I have intercourse, and it's in my whole life and learning what it means to be regulated and yeah.
Wow. Yeah, but the setbacks, you're right, I hate calling them setbacks, but I do appreciate that they happen because they're going to happen. I love when they happen in the program so that we can scaffold our nervous system and our body to be able to process that well. And then the more that we support our body out of a setback, the better our body trusts us and believes in the work that we're doing instead of being like, oh, you're only doing this for a 8-week season or something. So what happens when you're done? So I do appreciate when we can come beside you and when you experience those. I get nervous for my clients who have such a beautiful journey for the whole time they're in the program. And it's like everything goes well, they progress really fast and they get to PIV within a month or two. And I'm like, that's awesome. I will be here in the next few months. If there's glitches or something happens, a stressful life event happens and we notice pain. Anyway, I love when we can just really build that foundation sweetly. And so you're right. I hate it that it happens, but I also love it. And then how incredibly amazing that you haven't had a panic attack in over 8 months, I think. It sounds
Mhm.
like that's
Mhm.
wild, girl. Tell me
Mhm.
more about what you have learned about the nervous system and how that has transformed your life.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think I even really knew I knew the words nervous system before I started the program, but I didn't really know the concept. And I didn't have a grip really on am I regulated right now or am I dysregulated? And so I would get really dysregulated and then all of a sudden it would just be like I'm having a panic attack. And then that's when I realized I was dysregulated. And so awareness was like one of the biggest things in the beginning. And then the nervous system tools, I really tried to lean into those and find find my favorites and just do them over and over again, and they really work. It's kind of crazy, but they do. And yeah, I think just knowing what to do, like knowing almost catching it before it's really intense and then knowing here's an intervention, here's something that I can do to support my body in this, and I just didn't have those tools beforehand.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so glad that we could equip you with that because it is life changing when we can find we have over 40 different strategies, like practical strategies
Mhm.
in the program, in addition to all the education and learning too. But that's a lot. And I think the misunderstanding is that, oh, I'm supposed to master all 40 and use all 40. But the reality is, I think I have 5 or 6 tools that I use that have landed.
Mhm.
But of the 40, we're all going to have different 5 or 6 tools that we really love. So I'm glad you discovered the ones that worked for you. Probably there were some that you're like, oh no, that's this because for me, there are some that I'm like, I don't know how this works for anyone. And then using them in your everyday and practically checking with your body and being aware of what it needs, which tool to use, how to support it well. Wow. And so that's what led to not having that. And obviously, God's wonderful intervention and stuff has led to being more regulated, not having panic attacks. That's awesome, Bree. I'm
Yeah.
so incredibly encouraged. So many of these celebration calls, we spend more time talking about how we as women have been transformed, and we often forget to talk about sex because it's like
Mhm.
the life transformation is so huge.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh yeah, we have to talk about sex. So with that, how
Yes.
has sex and intimacy been for you?
Yes. Yes. So different than it was before. And I think just so beautiful and safe and fun. And I like it and I want it. And it's not perfect. And that's okay. And I don't need it to be perfect. And I think, yeah, I feel like before the program, intimacy in general, even just besides attempts, was very much, I was very in my head and felt a lot like a lot was if I was going to attempt PIV and then it didn't work, then there was like a lot of self-condemnation and a lot of wow, a lot of negative self-talk. And I just feel a lot more freedom and a lot more lightness. And it's like when the times when it's not perfect, it's like, okay. And there are times when there's the two pathways. There's times when I can still get on the old path and be like, oh, I'm freaking out a bit. But more often than not, it's like if something doesn't go quite how I wanted it to, it's like, okay, maybe a different time. But how can we connect and have fun and pleasure right now. And yeah, it's just been so good and so different than it was.
Oh, I love that. I love that you just said, I like it and we have fun. And that doesn't have to be this whole big ordeal anymore. It can be something simple as like, it's enjoyable and I desire it. Like just like
Mhm.
getting ice cream. It's this simple
Mhm.
thing that used to be a whole big ordeal. And now it's just so attainable and enjoyable. And yeah,
Mhm.
that's so special. Oh,
Mhm.
have you noticed any differences in your marriage? Has this impacted your marriage at all? Healing?
Yes. Yeah, that was another thing I feel like was pretty significant in the program. I think a couple months in, I was like, is my marriage worse than when we started? Because it felt like there was like, I felt like we were having a lot more conflict and just a lot less on the same page. And I was like, what's happening? Did I do something wrong? And again, those like negative self-talk things coming back. But really, I think what was happening was we were learning to to actually lean into uncomfortable conversations. And I can tend to be like, I have a tendency to avoid conflict and be like, we'll figure that out later. And then there's things that can build up. And so learning to actually have a lot of conversations and communicate a lot and be honest with each other and loving towards each other. Yeah, I felt like it got harder before it got better, but it did get better. So I feel like it was just, and I know like I've only been married now, it's like close to 2 years, but that's not even that long in the scheme of things. But I do feel like we just have learned so much about communication. And yeah, it feels like it's been very transformational for us.
And it's beautiful that you have almost been married for 2 years, and this is still more of the newlywed in terms of
Mhm.
you guys hopefully will be married, but, like, this
Mhm.
is now part of the foundation of your marriage, and
Mhm.
we do have a lot of partner stuff in the program to try
Mhm.
and get those conversations happening, to get that
Mhm.
depth happening sooner and not let vaginism steal all of that from us, and to be able to have those hard conversations, go through the darkness of the desert and oh man, all of the turmoil that vaginismus is, and be able to come out of that with healthy coping strategies,
Mhm.
co-regulation, learning how to communicate more effectively, being able to talk about sex in the bedroom,
Mhm.
outside the bedroom in a healthy way, being vulnerable, showing ourselves naked, physically, spiritually, emotionally, all the things. Do that in the first 2 years of your marriage and have that foundation is really special. And I think a lot of couples will get that sprinkled throughout their marriages as they go, but it's not a deep healing season. And it's usually
Mhm.
not like they're faced with it right away in marriage. So, how special is it that we have this solid foundation that vaginismus fortunately, unfortunately, gave us. And that's now the launch pad for you guys as you go into future seasons, whether that's having kids or moving to a different city or whatever it may be, that you guys have that foundation of connection and vulnerability. And vaginismus has given you that gift.
Mhm.
As much as maybe we didn't want it, we now
Yeah.
get to embrace it and accept it as something really sweet. And God's good. God is good at
Mhm.
how he works in us. So that's
Mhm.
awesome. That's so encouraging. And so are you using dilators at all now?
Nope. I haven't thrown them away yet. I maybe should, but I'm not using them. I haven't used them in a long time.
I
Yeah.
love it. Okay, if you don't throw them away, put them far away under the bed where it's
Yeah.
effort to get to. You don't need
Yes.
them. So,
Yes. Yeah.
yeah, you can keep them if you want them, but yeah, that's awesome. Okay, so no dilators and
Mhm.
able to just have fun and be free. I love that. So, I asked this question on all of our celebration calls, but would you say that penetrative sex is worth it? Is it worth all the effort and turmoil that it's been these past 2 years?
Yes. Yes, I definitely think it is. I feel like there's a deep intimacy in it and just a beauty in it. And I say that in a lot of different ways and not just like I don't ever want people to feel like in the middle of the healing journey that of course there can be so much beauty and intimacy without PIV. But I feel like in the whole journey, in the whole process of, like you said, vaginismus kind of being the thing that led us to find healing in all these different areas too. I feel like there's been a deep intimacy that's come in so many different areas. And then PIV has been like just the cherry on top. It's so fun and I love it and it's so worth it. And yeah.
Yeah. It's not that PIV is what saves the marriage bed in a sense, but it is what affords us to be fully vulnerable and fully open because all options are available to us
Mhm.
now, and we're not defined by the one we can't do. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
It's worth it to heal and worth it to get to experience it so that we can be free in all areas, I think, of the bedroom.
Yes.
It's not that
Yeah.
magically getting him inside fixes all of our problems of intimacy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I love that perspective. And so one of the other things that you said that you saw transformative in your journey is learning how to be kind and compassionate to yourself. Tell me more about that because that's
Yes.
so hard to do.
Yes. And I am so in the middle of that journey still. And like I have good days and I have days that are not as good. But the affirmations were just a really powerful thing for me, is speaking truth over like myself and my body and our marriage and what God has said about all those things too. I did not do that before. It felt weird to be like I all these things. It felt weird to say affirmations, and throughout the program, I started trying to say them out loud. I felt like that was significant to me to be able to say the things out loud, and then as we continued on to say them out loud in front of my husband and to speak them. And so when we would be having V times and I would start feeling a lot of pain, I would start speaking affirmations out loud and it would feel like uncomfortable and awkward of like this feels weird. But it felt like it was so powerful. And yeah, I think I spent a lot of my life being self-critical and that's my default has been my default. And so again, there's a lot of pathways that were there, so still working on like going the new path. But yeah, it felt so powerful in the middle of it when it felt like there was some harder things that my husband and I were working through for a couple months that I was in the program, speaking affirmations over our marriage to out loud for both of us felt like a really powerful thing too. And like blaming myself or blaming him or blaming whatever, like speaking words of negativity. It was words of truth and beauty and what God is calling us into.
Yeah. That's so beautiful. It's so sweet and so hard. Yes. And the way I have found it is so many of us women, at least who come across this program, it seems like, are so compassionate to other people. We work in
Mhm.
professions that are servants oriented or are teachers or nurses or whatever it may be. And we're really good at compassion towards others and so bad at compassion to ourselves. We either do avoidance and avoid hard things, or we dive so far into it, we don't listen to our bodies. We're critical about ourselves. We're perfectionists. We want to expect results kind of right away. Others can do this. Why can't I? The self talk is so bad. And so the first step is becoming aware of that self talk and then finding ways to combat that with truth. And that's where it gets awkward and weird and hard, but really practicing that and getting that to become part of our own self-talk, our own thought patterns, and even having our husbands, if we can, whisper that to us too, can make a huge difference. And yeah, I know I've really grown in tenderness and learning how to be more compassionate with myself. And it's been really sweet. But it's still a very big learning journey because that critical jest comes out quickly towards myself for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Interestingly, the month in the program when we had our first, like when we were actually able to have PIV for the first time was the month when we were doing a challenge about not being about releasing perfectionism. And I just think that's so fun to look back on. There was lots of things leading up to that in like the 9 months before that or however long it had been, but or whatever. But it was like, yes, it is like it was in releasing like all those high expectations that I had for myself and like speaking kindly to myself that there was healing. And I just thought it's just cool.
Yeah, that was a wild challenge.
Yeah.
Because we do these monthly challenges every month, and some of them are just like, oh, a little bit of reflection here, let's have fun here. But that one was like extra spicy because there were all these like daily challenges to do something that would just make our skin crawl, whether it was like leave the house with two different pairs of socks on,
Yeah.
or only paint one side of your toenails. Just what things that it's like, no, but why? Or that one really challenged me too. But how cool that kind of was ironically maybe the month that you guys were able to first experience like penetrative sex. And yeah, like it is having that compassion and letting go and not having to have everything predictable and perfect and put a bow on top. good connection, I think, making. I'll have to pass
Mhm.
that along to Olivia, who does a lot of amazing
Yes,
work at making those challenges.
for sure.
Yeah. So, okay, Brie, if there is there anything that you wish that you just would have known or someone could have spoken to you early on in your journey with vaginismus to encourage you?
Yeah, I think, like, you're not broken. I felt very broken. I felt like my body was working against me, and I felt like it was all my fault, and why are we in this situation? And just, yeah, again, back to the negative voices towards myself. But yeah, you have so much worth. You're not broken. There is healing possible, and it's a process, and it's not a perfect process, but you're worth it too. It's worth pursuing healing, and you're not like the burden in this scenario.
I love it. That's what I try to encourage everyone I get to do a consult call with. It's like you are not broken and you are worthy of being healed. And the kind of intimacy that God has called us to as women is worth pursuing. And so my
Mhm,
encouragement is to fight for that, whatever that looks like. It doesn't have to be this program, but whatever it looks like, keep fighting because sometimes us women will just put ourselves in the background and be like, I can get through, get by, make it work. And no, we are called to so much better things.
mhm,
Like it is so good to have that deep connection and pleasure and arousal and intimacy and all those things happening. And
mhm,
yeah, we're not broken. Our body's doing what it thinks it should do. We just have to get it back online in the right way so that we can fully enjoy intimacy the way
mhm.
God designed it to be. Thank you so much, Bree, for sharing this. Is there anything else that you want to share or say before we end the call?
No, thank you so much. It's a little sad, it's bittersweet. There's so many dear people that I've gotten to know in the journey, and I'm very excited to be moving on to Eden Unfolding and the future, but it's bittersweet too.
No, I know. I love it and I hate it
Yeah.
because we have such a deep, beautiful community. You kind of talked about that at the beginning. I love all the gals in our program, and we get so close because obviously we're talking about the most vulnerable things. And then people graduate, and then we have to say bye. And I want them to graduate, but I'm also like, no, now that we're just get to the fun part. And so I'm glad you're going to join Eden Unfolding, which is where we do get to kind of sit in the fun of now we can have sex. Now talk about it and enjoy it. But you'll be missed dearly because you've been
Mhm.
such a beautiful part of our community. But thank you for sharing your story, for being vulnerable, and for being willing to just inspire others in it. Because I know I wish I would have been able to hear other people's stories when I was in the thick of it. And so I know this will be an encouragement to so many women out there. So thank you so much, Bree, and amazing work in the program. And way to just show up, open your hands up to the Lord and be like, okay, God, you do this work. I'm just going to be obedient to keep coming and showing up. So I'm so encouraged by your story. So thank you, Bree.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Jess.